Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdah la sharika lah. Al-Hannan wal-Mannan badi'u as-samawati wal-ard. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd. I begin in the name of Allah, the one and only creator, Lord and sustainer of this universe, bearing witness and testifying that there is no one worthy of worship, that there is no deity or God worthy of worship except Allah, the one and only, the most perfect, the sublime, the majestic, the King, the Lord of the universe, the sustainer, the nourisher. We as Muslims, we would like to invite you to come away from the worship of false gods, to reject and abandon and shun the worship of man, woman, flag, pop stars, nations, idols, whatever it might be. Instead, we invite you to come back to the worship of your Lord, of your Creator, of your God, who is the one and only God that exists. There are not multiple gods. The idea that God has children, the idea that God has a father or a son or has wife and children is not something that you believe in, because in your heart and your mind you know there is only one God and there can only be one God. You know that. You know that there is not three gods. And you know that having multiple gods doesn't make sense. The universe demonstrates to you that it is under the operation of one God. Had there been more than one God, do you know what's going to happen? The universe will come to a ruin, a collapse. The universe as it stands now will not exist if there were multiple deities. Even if supposedly they were agreeing to each other, they would not agree on a universe like this. In the last few weeks, I have demonstrated to you with examples and illustrations why there can only be one creator of our universe. Today is your chance and opportunity to ask us questions about this, to challenge us, and to refute if you think that there are multiple deities in our universe. So today I will take your concerns, your questions, your criticisms. If you indeed believe there are more than one God, and that is a rational concept. Because as Muslims, we invite you to think rationally. We invite you to think with your intellect, reason with your intellect, and come to the realization that there are no other choice but to submit and surrender your will to the will of only one creator. That is the message number one. The second message that I'm going to talk about is the youth culture. Is how it is becoming a challenge for us to deal with the youth. Today's youth have a 5-second attention span. Did you know that? Or even less. So I'm going to talk about Generation Z or Generation Z or the TikTok generation, and what this generation is making us rethink our stance with our youth in our societies. How many of you know about Generation Z or Generation Z? Anyone? A few. How many of you understand what this Generation Z stands for in terms of their beliefs, ideologies, in terms of the character traits? Do you know there are 3 essential character traits of this generation? Those of you who do not understand this demographic or cohort-based analysis of generations, from about 1996, those who were born after that, these are the Generation Z. The Generation Alpha that precedes that is about from 2006 onwards. So we are dealing with youth in their prime who are Generation Z, which came after the millennials and the Generation X. How many of you have TikTok or know about TikTok? Generation Z, 60% or more of them are consumers, users of TikTok. 2/3. So immediately you realize we are talking about a generation of youth, a youth culture, in which 2/3 of them, they consume TikTok, they use TikTok. I didn't know about TikTok until very recently. But it is essential for us to know, what is this social media? You've heard about Instagrams and Snapchats. You use WhatsApp, Facebook and YouTube, don't you? Those of you Asians, you use WhatsApp to call abroad because it's free. That's how you use it most. Those of you who want to connect with your friends and want to authenticate yourself, your identity, you write on Facebook. Those you want to share your authentic expression, you go into Snapchat and Instagrams, right? But what happens in TikTok? You just swipe. Constant swiping. And if you like something, you try to watch it. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. If you don't like it, you swipe and you go to the next content. These billionaire corporate industries who have made TikToks, they know how to attract you, the youth. They know how to produce a system, a platform in which you can create content easily without difficulty, giving you the power to create authentic content that can be endorsed by the like-minded people. Is there any dislike button in TikTok? There isn't. Do you know why? Unlike some other platform, do you know why TikTok doesn't have a thumbs down or a dislike button? Because it's all about vibe, giving you the credibility, the confidence to create about what you do. So what happens? What do we see? Most of the users, as I said, are youth, teenagers. What are they doing? Are they generating content in which they're saying, you know what? There is a global warming happening. Look at our politicians, how they are ruining our society. Or are they creating content in which they're saying, this is how we invest in renewable energy? Hardly any of those contents. But they have that feeling within them that this is how we should change. What kind of contents are they producing? Trying to be as naked as possible and show yourself to the world and your friends or people that you didn't even know. They like it, they love it, and then you see 500,000 people liked your semi-nakedness. What does that do to you? It gives you validation, and you think this 500,000 people or 1 million people, they don't think what I'm doing is stupid or wrong or sinful. They like it. So you build up your confidence and you generate credibility, and that gives you the impetus, this stimulus to produce even more. So you put on your nether bikinis, whatever, and G-strings, whatever, to produce more contents so people can like more. That's what teenage girls are doing. The boys too. These are what it has become, to the level where it's all about you unknowingly the exploitation of your sexuality, and yet you don't even realize that as a youth, because you have adrenaline, all these hormones and chemicals running through your body, and you feel, wow, look at that, people love my body, my dress. That's what you think, right? People love the way you are acting or behaving and so on, and you do silly things as well, and people laugh and like things which are silly. 500,000 likes. It gives you the validation to do even more silly things. So TikTok, one of the social platforms, gives you to authentically express yourself. And guess what? You come along and you come out as, you know what? Today I feel I'm a woman. A boy says, I think I'm a woman. A girl says, I think I'm a boy. Even a 4-year-old, 5-year-old are supposedly now allowed in school to change in their thinking and say, you know what, I feel like a girl today. A 5-year-old. A boy could say that, and the teachers won't be able to do anything. That's the generation Alpha. But let's talk about generation Z still. This TikTok generation, they can authentically express themselves, and they feel happy because other people are validating them. And the other people, they get motivated by them too, and they start producing contents. Remember what I said? There are 3 essential characteristics. Sociologists, people who study demographics, change of culture, they've come up to at least 3 essential characteristics. This generation tries to have entertainment in their own way, expressing authentically what they like and dislike. Number 1. Number 2, they do not want to be told how to entertain themselves. You can't tell them to go and play football, have some fun, because they don't take your word for it anymore. They wanted to be entertained by their own terms and express their own identity authentically. That means there will be a culture in which the youth will have a mindset unlike the generations before. They will think in a way outside the way you are thinking. You are thinking in a way which is within the boundary of a social norm. They will break that social norm. They will break it. And they will bring about their own social norm, what they think is how it should be. Have you seen some youth coming over? You just ask them how they feel about the world, how they feel about politics, how they feel about governments and their policies. Some of them, those who have matured a bit, they start thinking about how to connect to others to make social change. Not only have entertainment, but to make social change. That means they're trying to connect to the others of a like-minded nature. This is another characteristic. To connect to the other who are of the like-minded nature, so that they can connect with each other and think about how they can bring about change in society, or in politics, or in governments. But unfortunately for them, which they don't realize is, they are being controlled and governed by the social media, which they are consuming and using to connect to others. They don't realize that. Because this TikTok platform, for example, is generating contents which are technically unlimited. So they have built in an anticipation within the mindset of the TikTok users, this Generation Z, that you know what? You will never get bored, there's always something. Just swipe with your thumb and you get contents. And they keep generating contents. In that way, this generation is hooked to this media platform. That's how you hook them. They cannot come out of it. The one who uses TikTok and has 1 million likes, it will be difficult for them to come out because they are hooked by this platform. Not realizing that they're spending billions of dollars understanding your mindset. Do you think the owners of TikTok don't spend billions of dollars to see how they can market to you, youth? That's what they're doing. That is making a platform which is so easy to make contents. You go outside and then download your videos in that social media platform, TikTok. So let's leave it there for now, and we'll perhaps talk about the other characteristic later. But I want to wrap up with the ones I've given you to think. How do we as parents, how do we as a generation before this youth generation, the Generation Z, how do we connect with them, to engage with them in a meaningful way, so that they better themselves in this life and in the hereafter? Especially when we have understood that they have a 5-second attention span. Do you know what's going to happen, or what is happening? This generation, even though they're techno-savvy, techno-naive, they know how to use these programs. Let me give you an example why I say how it's widespread. Not in UK and Europe only. Where I'm from, in the Indian subcontinent, right? There's a few countries there. Someone from our relatives, a girl from a village, got married through TikTok. Can you believe that? We are talking about a third world country. If it's still or a developing country, okay, let's be charitable. That's the reality, by the way. Getting married through TikTok. There. What about here? So what is happening? People are consuming this in such a way, it's controlling their lives. That father who was in abroad, elsewhere, had no control of his daughter. He had to succumb. He had to agree, because otherwise his daughter would go in a different way to get married to that boy, right? So this generation, because of the way they consume, every time they flick a video, they don't like it within the title, they go to the next one and the next one. What this has done, it has reduced the attention span. They will find difficulty in putting their attention, giving their attention in school and in class, because they don't want to hear a lecture 45 minutes long. They are not interested in reading books and literature and stories and poems. You know why? Because it's all about video contents, music, which I didn't talk about. They consume music, sexualization, and dance, all these videos. Anything that feeds with their entertainment within their youth culture. So what is going to happen? This generation, even though they're savvy, would they be able to grow up in a way their vocabulary quite expanded and broad? No, because the vocabulary will be very limited because they don't read. If you don't read, your vocabulary, your language will be only the languages that your friends, your colleagues that share in TikTok.